On the 18th of September 2013, Certificate 4 Community Service to students from the Warrane TAFE campus in Hobart, Tasmania, held a free barbecue event to raise awareness and campaign for Afghan women's rights. The campaign, originally begun by Amnesty International in recent years, focuses on the rights of women in Afghanistan and has become a focal point for Amnesty's current work for the rights of women in general. To this day, Afghanistan remains one of the most dangerous places to be a woman. For over a year now, there have been reported cases of beatings, disfigurations, kidnappings and killings of women and girls across the country. The Ministry of Women's Affairs documented 3,742 cases of violence against women from the 22nd of March to the 31st of December 2012. And according to the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, the Taliban and other armed groups accounted for 77% of civilian deaths in 2012. Women activists, parliamentarians and women in public life are often subjected to threats and violence, including many high-profile women's rights advocates and female Ministry of Women's Affairs officials who have been targeted and killed in recent years. Armed groups have also targeted girls' schools, attacking teachers and students. The Taliban have an appalling record of human rights abuses, both in government and as insurgents. Today, in areas they control or influence, as when in government, the Taliban severely curtail the rights of girls and women, including the denial of education, employment, freedom of movement, and political participation and representation. 87% of women in Afghanistan experience domestic violence during their lifetime. Only 13% of females over 15 years old are literate, compared with 43% of males. And the average Afghan woman won't live to see her 50th birthday. Though there have been some improvements since the fall of the Taliban in 2001. These include increased enrolment in education and better access to healthcare and employment. In 2001, only 900,000 children were enrolled in school. With the removal of Taliban-era restrictions, that figure rose to 7 million by 2011, around 2.5 million of them girls, compared to around 5,000 in 2001. According to official figures, only 9% of the Afghan population had access to public health services in 2001, while by the end of the decade, at least 65% of population had access to health services. Increased life expectancy. The average Afghan lived 48.7 years in 2012, compared with 42.9 years in 2008. And Afghanistan's latest constitution guarantees a quarter of parliament seats for women in the Afghan National Assembly and provincial councils. Amnesty International has worked very closely with several women's organisations in Afghanistan over many years to create this particular campaign. We are calling on Australia, the international community and the Afghan government to ensure women and girls in Afghanistan are protected, enjoy their full set of human rights, and are empowered and supported in leading changes in their lives. In Australia during 2013, 80,000 people signed Amnesty's online petition, which was presented to the Afghanistan and Australian ambassadors to the United Nations in New York in September. In Tasmania, groups held several events as part of the campaign, including a launch at Fuller's Bookshop on International Women's Day, and stalls held at the weekly Salamanca markets. The Friends School in Hobart also had the pleasure of hearing one of Australia's leading Australian Afghan leaders, Dr. Nuria Saleh, speak at their school during Refugee Week. After the campaign was introduced to students at Warrane TAFE, the horrifying statistics combined with the class's research into the issue shocked us into action. We wanted to help make a difference. We prepared for our campaign event using certain kinds of training methods, such as discussing campaign strategies, conversation training, and stall training. Some members of our class also created a Facebook page named Add Your Voice, Stand with Afghan Women. We used this page to post statistics and case studies, as well as advertising our barbecue event and keeping the public up to date with our progress by posting statuses and photos. It was a key learning experience for the class, as we had to make distinct choices about what content we posted and when to post so that it reached as many people as possible. The page has so far received 265 likes and has been one of the most important and ongoing tools of our campaign. Our students visited the Hobart campus and met with one of the classes there, and also held a stall where other students and teachers could come and learn more about our action and be personally invited to our barbecue event. The main purpose of this event, as well as to raise awareness, was to gather as many photos as possible, of people standing in solidarity with Afghan women, later to be bound in a book forming a visual petition, to be presented to our local members of Federal Parliament, Andrew Wilkie, the Independent Member for Denison, and Julie Collins, Labor Member for Franklin and former Minister for Women. These Members of Parliament were specifically chosen because students from our class reside in both of their electorates, and because the Warrane campus falls under Julie Collins' electorate of Franklin. We are also calling on local members to raise the issue in Federal Parliament by making a statement, and to call on the Foreign Minister to explain how and what she will do to ensure Afghan women's rights are supported and improved during the peace negotiation process. Many people participated in our barbecue event, including the students and teachers from our campus, as well as from other campuses in Hobart. Some of the students wore targets in the colours of the Afghan flag. Others wore t-shirts saying "Stop Violence Against Women."
That was absolutely beautiful.
Matt Burns, a student and local musician, entertained the crowd. And Sultan, himself an Afghan musician, sang a few heartfelt Afghan songs for us.
नीली नीली हम्बर पर चांद जब आए प्यार बरसाए हमको तरसाए है सा कोई साथी हो है सा कोई प्रेमी हो प्यास दिल की बुझा जाए नीली नीली अंबर पर चांद जब आए.
Two of our classmates gave speeches, and the event was a great success, despite the rain.
Amnesty International is calling for the global community, Australian and Afghan governments to protect the inherent human rights of women and girls in Afghanistan.
Right now, the Afghan government are holding peace talks with the Taliban and other insurgent groups. But because women are in danger of being excluded from the peace process, Australians need to stand with Afghan women and call on our government to ensure that women's rights are not traded away.
Most were willing to have their photos taken to later form part of our photo petition book. In the end, we were able to gather well over 100 photos for our petition book. Following the event, arrangements were made to meet with Andrew Wilkie and Julie Collins to present the photo petition book to them and discuss our action with them. Phone calls were made to each office with an introduction and an explanation as to what we were doing, and emails were sent with more information, as well as the link to our Facebook page. We were successful in landing meetings with both Members of Parliament, much to our excitement. This was just another step closer to achieving something great. To prepare for these meetings, we needed a little advocacy training. We used Amnesty's Influencing Decision Makers Guide to assist us. Other preparations, such as researching each politician, was a really useful strategy. We read their maiden speeches, their biographies, and any other bit of information that might be useful. We would go into the meetings aware of what would interest them most about our campaign, and use their interests to help us gain their support. A meeting plan was constructed to guide us during our discussions and to keep us on the right track. Only 3 of us went to each meeting, as we didn't want to be too forceful and wanted to keep it casual but still show that we meant business. We were uneasy at first, with so many thoughts running through our heads. What if we don't achieve anything? All we could do was remain positive and assertive, and remember that they are there to support the community, which is exactly what we needed them to do. Each of the meetings went very casually and smoothly, and the outcomes were spectacular. Both Andrew and Julie agreed to raise the issue in Federal Parliament, and Andrew Wilkie also committed to writing a letter to the Foreign Minister. Julie Collins was especially delighted to hear about all the work the students had put into this campaign. After the success of our meetings, we were most certainly in high spirits. Follow-up emails were sent to each Member of Parliament thanking them for their time and letting them know that we were looking forward to hearing them speak in Canberra. In the coming weeks leading up to the next Parliament sitting, another email will be sent to each MP to remind them of our ask. If they do speak in Parliament, a thank you email will also be sent to express our appreciation for their commitment to Afghan women's rights. you would like to add your voice or your photo to Amnesty International's campaign for the rights of women in Afghanistan, please visit our Facebook page, Add Your Voice, Stand with Afghan Women, or get involved in Amnesty's Tasmanian website and Facebook page. Or for more information on this campaign, you can visit the Afghan Women's Rights page at the Amnesty Australia website.